Buyer's remorse.
All right. Hello and welcome to Buyer's Remorse. I'm Darren.
And I'm Justin.
And today I gave Justin a game that I am also guilty of owning, but I have actually played this.
You had played it before I did.
Yeah. And I was unsure about how it would go down with you. And that game was called...
Easy Red.
So
this game has a positive, actually a very positive rating with 499 reviews, at least when I played it. The developer is Marco Amade. I'm not sure exactly how to say the name. It has a base price of about $4. It was released originally, it says December 1st, 2017. And it does have a free demo, so if what I tell you today doesn't entice you, maybe you want to give the free demo a try and see if it is worth it. We got this in a bundle.
I remember it exactly.
And I don't remember what game we were pushing for, but we both wanted it, and Easy Red kind of came as a extra game that I didn't really care, because whatever that game was, I definitely wanted it. To talk about Easy Red is kind of tricky because it is a first-person shooter. It is the type of game where you respawn every time you die. So it is so similar to other games like Battlefront or Modern Warfare or I think Sudden Attack, Counter-Strike. It seems like there are a lot of games like this. Even going back, I'm not sure if it was a PC game, but on PlayStation, Medal of Honor. And I would probably more relate it to something like Medal of Honor because it is meant to be World War II, from what I understand, and a kind of, I think, reenactment of, is it D-Day, perhaps?
It looked to me like the Normandy landings, yeah.
Because we're trying to reclaim the beach if you play as the Allies. Though the Allies is marked only by a US flag, when really it should be more than just that, but yeah. Okay, so a few things about the game. Let me say a few good things about the game. Well, I was going to say it doesn't look terrible. I'm not sure if that's a plus, but really for considering this small team, which is probably just this one guy, it looks all right. There are some weird things, like the water at the beginning, I think looks a little bit weird, but overall, it looks pretty decent. I'm not really a history buff. I don't like to watch history documentaries. I don't read a lot of history books. So I don't know how accurate this is, but it seems to represent what I've seen in other movies of this time period, like trying to recreate this time period. So I know that trying to run up on the beach, like you can either go in from the sky in a parachute, or you can go in a boat. And it's a little bit annoying. The first time it's great because you get that feeling of, oh my goodness, I have to try and survive to get onto the beach, because you can be shot while you're still in the boat.
Yeah.
In fact, the one time, I think there were 8 other NPCs in the boat, and I was the only one to survive. And so that can happen, and that's a very interesting way to start things off, and it feels very kind of horrific. So it reminds me a lot of the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan, and how you just feel like you can't win this.
Yeah.
And really you can't, which is why it's lucky you can respawn. I think my biggest concern with a game like Easy Red is just there is not really a market for it. I think when you look at those other games I mentioned before, things like Modern Warfare, Counter-Strike, they're so polished and they're so much more about multiplayer, and they have so many other things going for it. I'm not sure if there's a big market for an independent first-person shooter of this kind. And, a base price of $4 is not bad. And you could easily get 4 hours out of this game. There is a lot of content. There are a lot of different levels. In my hour, I never made it to Chapter 2. Chapter 1 still had so many other things going.
Did you see how many chapters there were? I've forgotten.
I don't remember. There were 5, I think. But on top of that, you can play as allies, or you can play as
the Axis.
Yeah, and though the Axis is primarily just Germans, all spouting the same thing, the Allies are often just saying the same thing. There's Germans over there. They kind of say the same things over and over again. So that part is probably not the best, but it pretty much doubles your game. At least in the early chapters, what I played, as the Allies, you're basically just trying to get onto the beach and keep claiming bunkers and making your way forward. As the German side, you basically just have to eliminate a certain number of Allies and then you win. The German side is so much easier to win.
I never played as the Germans. So, did you try both then, yeah? So you just gotta... What is it? You have to kill 20 Americans?
It's like 75, I think, in the first one.
And that's it?
Yeah, pretty much. And the one...
We win the war!
The one I did, you basically start off in a bunker, and they have these huge guns that I can never kind of get to fast enough before an NPC would jump onto it.
Right.
But they would basically just shoot at the poor soldiers coming off the beach. There's just no way that they could win.
The horrors of war.
I didn't even have to do anything, and they eliminated about half of the other guys. The only thing I had to do was stand at the back door to make sure nobody snuck in, because eventually some of the ally soldiers would run in and just eliminate the other guys because they're not paying attention. So let's get into some of the problems with the game. The NPCs are very kind of dumb. So I think the German ones are a bit better. They do attack very well. The ally ones are good at times, but then other times they just become totally focused on the wrong person, or they get hung up in a really weird section.
I found that they just all bundled together like cattle.
And that could be a real problem. So they're all bundled up into a group and not doing anything. Or, what can be even worse, is I was trying to take a bunker and there were about 20 German soldiers all bundled up together into one bunker. And so whenever you come even close to the doorway, there'd be 20 people shooting at you. So there was just no way that you could get through it. That's a problem.
Toss a grenade, or I think in the tutorial it's spelled grenade.
There was one point where I just did a sacrifice mission where I just got the flamethrower and I just ran in and I just and I basically wiped them out so that we could get to that part. Another major problem I have, and I'm not sure exactly what was going on here, but within the hour, 3 times the game crashed. And it sent me directly out to the desktop. Like the game just disappeared as though it wasn't running at all. And that meant having to start that entire stage over again. And that can be very, very frustrating and heartbreaking. If I don't go back to this game, that's probably the number one reason why. It's hard to love a game that kicks you out.
Yeah.
I will say this as well. It seems to have partial controller support, but not full controller support. This causes some real issues. I found myself kind of going back and forth between the controller and the keyboard mouse, depending on what I wanted. So for some things, like switching weapons or inspecting, it felt like the controller was a much handier way to do it. But for actually zooming in on a target to fire on, the mouse was just so much better. The controller one, you can't really alter the sensitivity in the options, which is normally what really helps make a controller work in a shooting game. There's also a problem of having somewhat realistic recoil from the guns. With the controller, then, because your gun gets, every time you shoot, gets knocked so far out of where you're trying to actually aim, that it's just a real problem of being too slow to get back up to the target and having to do that after every shot.
Right.
I also think the hitboxes are a bit weird in this game. So with the sniper, which is probably the thing I chose the most often, I could hit somebody in the knee and they would just die instantly. So you basically just had to hit them anywhere. But then there were other times where, and with the sniper, you're zooming right in on them. And I would fire and they would still be totally fine. So that's a bit of a problem as well, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to be too harsh on this game. I think that there's a lot of good here. I think that this looks to me like a passion project. Somebody really wanted to make this. And I think it's a great start. If I was seeing this and this was a beta game, like still in testing, I'd say, okay, yeah, there's a lot that could still be improved on. But it's not anymore. As far as I know, it's actually been released and this is the game.
Do you think it's kind of like, I got the feeling when I was playing this, like, for want of a better word, that it's kind of like a piss take. It was almost like the game was saying we're not as polished as, Insurgency or Counter-Strike, but we've made something fun, despite all its flaws and bugs. I mean, crashing to desktop isn't a fun bug, but the people herding together like cattle and saying the same lines over and over again, and a lot of the game is kind of goofy to me. I thought it was almost like a joke. Did you get the same kind of feeling, or?
I didn't get that feeling, but I wouldn't argue against it. I could see that. I don't think, though. I think that this is a much more earnest project. I think that he tried to make something, and maybe it was just a little bit above his skill level, or maybe he just wasn't patient enough to fix some of these problems before releasing. But at the same time, I could see that. I mean, I didn't hate it. I tried playing it again the next day. So to preempt your question of will I play it again, I did try playing again. And it is the type of thing that I think I would like to play.
Did it crash again the next day?
Yes, multiple times. So again, either it's my setup or it's the game. And that is what kind of kills it. Because the one time I had the Germans, basically I didn't have to do anything. I was just trying to see how long I could survive without doing a thing.
The pacifist run.
Mm-hmm. And the game crashed just as I was getting close. So it's that kind of thing that just makes me not want to go back in.
Fair enough.
How long did you play when you played it?
I played it for a couple of hours, I think. I think it also crashed for me, but maybe not as frequently as you. But I don't think I got anywhere near as far as you did. I got up the beach, I got into like a field, and then I got slaughtered somewhere along there. Because all my guys were just they were all just bundled together, and there was 3 Germans. And they were like, well, this will be easy. One of them just lobbed a grenade and took out the entire team. It's like, oh, well, that's that then. Yeah, just Achtung.
One of the problems I had was the objectives seem a bit unclear. You do get a marker, which does help, but sometimes I just wasn't sure. It would say objective, capture bunkers, but you have to capture the certain bunkers in the order that they want to. You can't capture other ones, even though they're on the map. And it's also, I think one of the biggest problems is that if you finish, you do get your final objective, because within a level, there will be multiple objectives. You have to do one, and then another one pops up, and then another one pops up. Like that one with you in the fields, you were probably having to keep going.
Yeah.
Take the fields and then take whatever came after it. But when you finish a level, rather than doing something simple like saying you've won or the allies have captured the bunker, you just go to the menu.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
It's like, I guess I won. And that chapter or that little section will change color. It will be kind of a bright red, so you know that you have finished it. But I want that little something to say, yes, you have won. Yes, you did do it. Yes. Or, no, you failed miserably,
Yeah, yeah, you want some kind of Super Mario fireworks.
Yeah, you don't really get that. I think you get some sort of stats, but it's not really, I don't know. It's not the kind of you win screen that I'm used to and that I would kind of want for having to go through everything to get to the end objective, I guess. But that's it. That's Easy Red. 60 minutes of play. It's fun.
Would you recommend it?
Not really. I mean, not to you.
Because I've played it.
Because you played it. And I think if you really wanted to keep playing it, you would have. I think you were hoping that I would be kind of miserable playing this game.
Yeah.
Which doesn't speak well to your recommendation of the game. I would not really recommend it to most people. Let me put it that way.
I mean, who would you recommend this to then? Because obviously, like you said, lots of positive reviews. People are buying this. People are enjoying this game.
I think people who are World War II buffs, they're the type of people who want to see this because I think the weapons that they've designed are fairly authentic. If you want a slightly too realistic game at times, like doing the inventory, you have to go in and you have to take each item one by one and put it into your inventory, which is just awful as a game. But to see it from a more realistic perspective, I think this game has a lot of that going. There's one level where to claim the beach, I had to climb up ropes and the enemy could shoot me down as I was climbing up the rope. It's almost too realistic to be fun as a game, but as a lesson for this is what it was like, I think it has some merit there. And I think that that's what these people who like it, I think that that's why they're saying that. I think they're also being kind as well, because when it's a very small developer, you don't want to be too harsh. There are good things here, and I think there are enough good things here that I do want to see what else he could come up with in the future. Or maybe he could get put onto a team where he's not the only person and help make another game better. And using this kind of, hey, you know, I created a game that's got positive reviews on Steam as kind of a CV builder. And I'm totally for that. I think that that's fine. I think we both talked about this before, that sometimes we're a bit too harsh on any game, and especially when it comes to poor, small indie developers. You and I both want to be a bit nicer. And I think, I mean, I've played some awful games, and this isn't it. It's just not great. So I think people who want that kind of World War II experience, people who want something that's maybe a little less polished than the AAA games, I think that there might be a very small market for it, but I just don't see it as being a huge market. I don't think this is a game changer in the world of kind of first-person shooting games.
So what tags would you give that then? Like FPS, obviously.
Yeah, so I think first-person shooter, historical, and then probably the third one I'd say is choosing your side, because it's very interesting that you can play from either side. I mean, go to Left 4 Dead and you can't play as the zombies. So, as well, I think just the fact that the two sides have different objectives.
Right.
Give it enough replayability to make it interesting.
All right. Oh, sorry. So, just that look you just gave me, like, what he was saying, like, you'll remember. So, buyer's remorse or buyer's confirmation, Justin?
I would say because I bought it in a bundle, and I got it as what I would refer to as just a bonus game that really, I've played it for a couple hours. I thought it was okay. I'm going to say confirmation.
Buyer's confirmation.